Welcome to Shoulda Known. I am Venomous, and with me as always is my hetero life mate.
Titan.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing crypto.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and I think we'll also probably talk about NFTs
Yeah,
and just kind of our personal takes and thoughts on it, and share that with everybody. And you may agree with us, you may not, but that's just where we're coming from.
that's okay. No problem. And if you disagree, please make sure that you post in the comments below. Obviously, we'd love to interact with you, so make sure that if you like the content, to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. Again, whether or not you disagree with us. All right.
Okay, whatever. All right.
So you wanted to talk about cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So I don't know. I have some cryptocurrencies. I've traded it here and there.
Yeah.
But it's just always lost money because I've learned I don't do well at stocks and all that stuff. And I just, I get the concept. I get how the blockchain could be a good thing from a tech and
Yeah.
IT and
Sure.
security and all this stuff, right? I get all that.
Right.
What I have a hard time with is the decentralized currency.
Mhm.
I think we've all seen videos of people talking about them and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, take the government out of it. That sounds like a good idea, but it also seems like a really good way to just commit a lot of scams and fraud on people. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean,
So this is very timely, this topic, because
Mhm.
I think it was last week, there was a study published by a company called, I think, the App Gamble or something like that,
Mhm.
and they did a study of about 73,000 NFTs, or NFT
Right.
collections, and they found
Mhm.
out that 95% of them had a market cap of zero. So zero
Hmm.
ETH. Yeah, so essentially what that means is like 95 of people that are holding NFTs today, like they've lost all value, completely worthless.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
The
I agree,
NFT
right?
one is,
Like
I've always, yeah.
so I agree, right?
Go ahead.
Like,
I'm sorry.
that tells me that it was just like Beanie Babies back, what was it, in the 90s?
Right. Yeah.
Like everyone went gung ho on Beanie Babies. They started seeing them as a way to get rich quick, and there was this
Mhm.
huge bubble. And what happened when the bubble burst? Like, you ended up with worthless toys,
Bunch of stuffed
right?
animals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
worthless stuffed animals, right? Exactly. So this is just the same thing, right? But just with a different name.
Right. Well, honestly, when you take NFTs, so digital art or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So to me, it's the same as art, even physical, real art,
Hmm.
because art is only valued at what people are willing to pay for it.
Right.
You sell these paintings for millions and millions of dollars, but that doesn't mean it's actually worth that. That's just what people are
Sure.
willing to pay right now.
Yeah.
If later on they found out that, that painter's a horrible person or whatever, and then maybe the value of that painting goes down, it's like, it's just,
Very subjective. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good
yeah.
point.
So
Yeah.
that's,
But what I would say is this. So to me, here's the difference. So
Mhm.
when you purchase an NFT,
Right.
and when you brought up this topic, I think it was last week,
Hmm.
you made a really good point. Like, they're not really buying anything. All they're buying
Right.
is an entry on the blockchain, which is a ledger that
Right.
says that they own essentially a URL, a link to a file
Right.
hosted somewhere else. Like, that's
Right.
all that transaction is doing.
And who's to
So
say that link's going to work 5 years from now? Maybe that server
exactly.
doesn't exist or whatever. So,
Exactly. So that's all you're owning. You're not really owning it. The other problem is that NFTs are supposedly non-fungible. But that's not
right.
true. Like, if you have something that's non-fungible, what that means is it's unique. You can't really replicate it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you can take a screenshot of an NFT,
Yep.
right? Like, boom,
Mhm.
screenshot taken. I can post this as my profile picture and I can claim that I own the NFT.
Oh, for sure.
So it's
Or
just
you
to
could
me
even be
like,
worse, and
mhm,
you could even sell it more than once, but have
right,
it on
right,
different URLs, right? Same
yep,
picture, different URLs.
yep.
So
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but Jack Dorsey, for those of you guys who don't know who Jack Dorsey is, he was one of the co-founders of Twitter, and he
Right.
posted the first tweet when they were posting the platform online, and he took a screenshot of that tweet and sold it as an NFT.
Hmm,
I don't
okay.
remember how much he sold it for, um,
Right.
but like he sold a picture of his first tweet and put it on a blockchain, and then it was
Right.
worth however much it is that somebody sold it for. So to
Right.
me, like, and it's a picture anybody could take. Anybody can go back and take a picture of it, right,
Hmm.
and replicate it, etc. So the whole thing to me just falls apart about it being, non
Yeah.
fungible.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I mean, because so let's take the scenario where he sells it to somebody. They now own that. Somebody now
Yeah,
takes a screenshot of that. Now it's a new file
yeah,
that you can post somewhere else. And they say
right.
it's, yeah, I think the whole thing is just ridiculous. I don't, the NFT is, I think, the worst version of all of it.
Yeah,
Going back to the cryptocurrency, again, I see where that could be a good thing. I mean, uh, people will talk about, oh, certain countries will artificially inflate the value of their
hmm,
money, but
sure,
the United States does that too. We do
right.
it too. You know, we control what that dollar is worth. I mean, not the government, but the Fed, which is
Hmm,
nothing but a private bank, basically, right? So they control that, whether they print more money or don't.
right.
Um, and so that's where I could see how Bitcoin could be a good thing, get a universal currency, right? But it kind of has to have a little bit of oversight because let's say you own 1,000 Bitcoin and it's on some digital wallet somewhere. It
Hmm,
can be hacked and stolen, and now you don't have it. So it almost ends up being like bearer bonds, where only the owner of the or the person in possession of the bearer bonds actually has that. You know what I mean?
hmm,
So again, I see it as a scam. Like take Bitcoin, and not to harsh on them, it's just the biggest name out there, but there's no way that they're worth that amount of money compared to a US dollar. Based
yeah,
on what? Again, what people are willing to pay. So
yeah.
people were willing to pay $30,000 for one, where 5 years ago, what was it? 10 cents for one?
Yeah, it was
So,
a crazy low amount. Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah.
so you just touch on something that I think is a good point. So the way that these schemes work is, and we saw a lot of it probably about 3 years ago, where you
Yeah.
saw these companies spring up creating their own cryptocurrency.
Right.
So what they would do is they would hold a majority of whatever currency it was that they were trying to. I'm going to say it shill. They're shilling their currency. They would then do
Sure.
what's known as an airdrop, and that airdrop would be given to the first few people that invest or get or
Hmm.
in some cases they didn't even invest, right? That you would just, hey, sign up for
Right.
this and you're going to get free ETH, right? Or free
Right.
whatever name, insert made up name of cryptocurrency here. And so what
Hmm.
would end up happening was they would enlist more and more people to purchase their cryptocurrency with the hopes that it would go up in value over time and that whoever invested in cryptocurrency, they're going to make their money back and then some. Well, what ended up
Yeah.
happening was that works for a small period of time. And so the
Hmm.
early investors in the cryptocurrency, they make money, but then the
Hmm.
average like retail, call them investor or whatever you want to call them,
Right.
those people just ended up losing money. So there's stories
Hmm.
about people that were involved in some of this cryptocurrency, ICOs and stuff like that, who like lost everything or already didn't
Yeah.
have much to begin with, and then they, instead of being there and doing something really productive to help their families out, they were doing this with the hopes that they'd strike it rich, and in reality they just wasted their time and weren't there to be able to provide for their families. So it's really really predatory, and really, and that's the way that the whole scheme kind of works with cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So only the people at the very top, they're the ones that make the money. Anybody who's coming in after the fact is basically going to lose money.
So I'm going to tell you a story that I heard. So I live in Texas, right? And during the summer, it's been super hot. And there's
Hmm.
been several times we get the emails, please reduce your electric usage, the grids, blah, 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 all this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Fine, great, do my part. What's interesting is in this news story was that there is a cryptocurrency mining company here in Texas, and they account for like 10% of the energy consumption of the entire state.
Damn,
One company.
that's crazy.
And that's I think one of the other problems we're going to see with digital currency is the amount of resources it takes to run it,
Yeah,
from electric usage, things like that.
sure.
So the second part of the story that was interesting is that this company, when they did basically shut down during that time, they didn't
Hmm.
run during that time, they made $12 million during, like, I think it was that month, or maybe I don't know what the time frame was, but they made $12 million by not
Damn,
running.
dude.
They actually made more money by the utility company paying them not to run than they do doing what they actually do.
That's insane. That's just crazy. That's crazy.
And go ahead.
Yeah,
What was
no.
I
So something about that, which I find interesting,
saying?
is that people say, and this is an area where I haven't done enough research in, which
Sure.
is people say, well, people are standing up these server farms to do crypto mining and yada yada yada, power consumption, power consumption, power consumption.
Right.
However, I would say the counter argument to that is everything that we do that produces money consumes power, right? The fact that
Sure.
you have a corporation, that you work for that corporation has employees. Those employees need to travel to their office, or they are eating up electricity at home to power the computer that they're using for work, right? Like there are, to me, that argument of, well, crypto just takes up a lot of power, that's probably a valid point, but I haven't seen
Mhm.
the numbers or the comparison, right? Whether if you have a regular company that's making money, compare that against like crypto and what the power off
Yeah.
differences, consumption differences are.
Well,
But it's still an interesting point, right? They do eat up a lot of power, but do they really
mhm.
eat up as much power as anything else?
Well, I think if you just think of that number, so this was one company in the whole state of Texas,
Mhm.
and it consumed 10% of the power
Yeah.
for
That is a
for
lot.
the entire
I
state.
will I will admit that's a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Especially
ridiculous
when you
amount.
take in all the oil refineries.
Yeah,
I mean, you got Tesla outside of Austin. You got a lot of manufacturing and things. And I mean, even
yeah.
if you get away from normal corporate jobs, you get into manufacturing. There's a lot.
Mhm.
Like I know that there's like several steel mills that use a lot of electricity and stuff like that. To melt steel.
Yeah.
And yet that one company takes 10% of the power. So that's
Mhm.
that's where I'm like, no matter what, they're definitely using a lot more
Yeah.
comparatively.
Sure. Sure.
But no,
Awesome.
you're right. Everything does. Everything we do takes. You can't get something for nothing. So
Yeah. Yeah, you can't. Do you remember the Board Ape Yacht Club craze? You remember that?
don't think I do.
Oh
Refresh my
man,
memory.
there were like these NFTs that were different apes that look bored, but they're all
Hmm.
different, right? Like it was a
Okay.
collection, and
Hmm.
they were like all over the place for a minute there. Like Paris Hilton had bought a board ape. Who else was it? Jimmy Fallon also
Hmm.
bought one. Snoop Dogg, like Snoop Dogg is like deep into crypto, man. Like he is like
Yeah.
the biggest crypto shill there is right now.
Right.
I would say it's John McAfee, but he died a few years ago.
Well, did you see? I forget. I don't remember the exact cryptocurrency. It was actually I think it was a selling platform, a trading platform. I think.
Mhm.
Um, but there were several celebrities that were endorsing it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now those celebrities are actually being I mean, they're being charged. Like they're going to have to defend
Hmm.
themselves in court because apparently it was again just a big scam.
Yep.
Because that's the other side. So you have the digital currency itself, but then you have the sellers of it, effectively. The banks or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, it's it's funny because all these celebrities jumped in on it. Like I think even Matt Damon got in trouble not to call out names, but
Yeah.
I think Matt Damon's one of them recently because he had. I remember watching, and I think it was in the movies, and they had these really
Mhm.
cool trailer or videos or commercials and stuff. It's like, oh, this is really cool, and then it's
Yeah.
it's crypto.
Yeah.
So, um,
That's crazy.
but
Do,
yeah,
so, do,
there's
so
yeah.
I know that you own some crypto. Do you own any NFTs?
Mhm.
Did you? Okay.
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
that like I wouldn't own crypto except for I was like, maybe it was I bought some, and I'm not gonna say the name, but I bought some. It was super cheap, like less than a penny. I was
Yeah.
like, I can spend $100 to get a bunch of it, right? It's no
Sure.
big deal.
Yeah.
I'm at $100, so I bought it, and then it actually went up to like I think $6, and I was doing okay. I mean, I didn't have a ton,
Nice.
but I
Sure.
was doing okay with it. And then I got greedy. I was like, well, when it hits 10, I'll sell it, and it
Yeah.
never hit 10.
Never hit 10.
So, but I mean, again, I
love
didn't
it.
lose much,
Yeah,
so
sure.
it's $100.
It was
not a big
money you
deal.
could afford to lose.
But I've always felt like the NFT thing was
Yeah.
like I was like, there's absolutely no way you can get me to buy that. I
Me
mean,
too,
the
man.
whole blockchain. I got an itch. Sorry, the whole blockchain premise conceptually could be good.
Yeah.
I see the benefit from a secure transactions, having that ledger that's traceable, especially when you're talking about medications and things like that. It's understandable. I understand the concept. Would have a hard time. I feel like in a lot of ways it was used as a catchphrase for a
Yeah.
long time
Totally agree.
because I'm sure some companies have probably utilized it, but I think a lot of companies tried to start projects like a blockchain project and then it went nowhere because no one really knew
I
what
think
to
most
do
of
with
them
it.
went nowhere. Yeah. Probably all
And
of them went nowhere.
yeah, and I think they even found, I don't remember which cryptocurrency it was, but in a cryptocurrency within its blockchain, they actually found like pornography in there at one point. And we can kind of bleep some of that if we have to. But anyways, but I mean, they found illegal. Let's start with that. We'll
Mhm.
cut that part. They found illegal pictures embedded within the blockchain, just as a way to transfer stuff. So yeah,
People
I
are
think
gonna
it's crazy.
do bad things, man. Like,
Oh, of course.
yeah, I mean, bad people are always gonna try to take advantage of a loophole or
Mhm.
whatever it is to try to do whatever it is that they want to do. It's sad.
Right. Yeah.
It's really sad.
Yeah. You can't get rid of all the bad people.
No. Now, El Salvador, I don't know if you're aware, but a
Mhm.
few years ago they made Bitcoin an officially
Yes.
legal currency. What are your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
And um, that's fine, except for I remember, I think at the time they did it, Bitcoin was worth twice as much as it is now.
Yeah.
So the country itself lost like a ton of money in the
Yeah.
process. So I think as a citizen of that country, I'd be a little upset because, but I mean, any country's money can technically be devalued
Sure.
pretty drastically. It happens. You see the war in Ukraine with Russia.
Mhm.
Russia's currency tanked when they
Right.
invaded Ukraine because of all the sanctions and stuff that were placed on them. So, like
Yeah,
I said, I mean, what's the
100%.
difference other than the nice thing is that that country would now save money not printing physical dollars.
Sure.
Like I hate carrying cash personally.
Me too.
I
I
almost never
hate
had
it.
cash.
I hate it.
Um,
So here's my conundrum with crypto. I own
Mhm.
some. I've used it
Sure.
to purchase things. So I've used it to purchase like video games in the past.
Sure.
Most people buy it, but they never do anything with it.
Sure.
And to me, the times that I've used it, it's been very difficult to use. So putting myself in, being a user, I don't
Right.
understand what problems it solves. Like if I need to transfer money to you, like
Yeah.
I can PayPal you, right? I can Venmo
Right.
you, right? Like,
Yep.
I can Apple Pay you. There's there's different ways for me to transfer money much easier than it is for me to use like my Bitcoin wallet to do that. So
Sure.
like and the other thing is like I don't send international wires ever.
Mhm.
I never send any wires. So like the average person, like what advantage does the average person get from Bitcoin?
Well,
don't
that
know.
goes back to I don't think people don't trust it, right? So your local, stores don't really trust it, so they don't want to take it because because again, it's so, what's the word, volatile. It's so volatile that today it could be worth $100. So you go to the store, you buy something, and you got, I got this product, and tomorrow that same, not even tomorrow, within an hour, it could drop
Yeah,
to $2.
sure.
So now
Yeah.
that store just lost $98 from that, because they took that crypto. So I think that's one problem. And the other, well, no, I think that's probably just the one problem. It's just nobody trusts it because it's so volatile. Because you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can have your Bitcoin. There are some places online that do accept it, but not many. Um, Most that do, or not say most, there are a lot of the uses for Bitcoin is for illegal activity on the dark web.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
uh, because it's not, I mean, really traceable in a lot of ways. And then, so the only other option you'd have is to have to go to a little kiosk to get basically cash out in
Hmm.
order to then buy something using your Bitcoin. But then in the end, you're still using currency, like
Hmm.
physical currency. So at that point, what is it doing?
Right.
It's not serving any purpose. It's serving the same purpose as your normal bank account,
Hmm.
realistically. So,
So, what are, I'm just trying to think here. What are like valid uses to blockchain? I think you talked a little bit about, you mentioned like medical records as when you kind of threw that out there
yep.
as an example. What are some others?
Yeah. So, from my understanding and a little bit of experience, given what I do,
Hmm.
the biggest use cases are anytime you need, I'll call it material traceability. Anytime
Hmm.
you need to know throughout the life of this thing, where was it? Who touched it?
Hmm.
All of that. That's where the blockchain is really useful. Obviously, you can find uses for it, I think, within financial banking in general as well. But I mean, even from a logistics and shipping, everywhere along the way, you'd be able to track that thing and it's secure and you're not at risk at losing that information because it would be stored within that blockchain. I think those are the use cases from what I understand of how it would be best used. Because I think there are companies, pharmaceutical companies, that are using it to track,
Yeah.
we call it like batches of a
Okay.
medicine. So you know when it was made and all
Hmm.
these things. So you can trace it back to what even the raw ingredients and where they came from. So if you do have an issue
See,
with that
that's pretty
medication
cool.
later,
That's pretty
you
cool.
can, yeah. And
Yeah.
that makes sense
Yeah.
to me. But,
Yeah.
but beyond that, I can't think what else would I use it for. But I don't know enough about it, I guess, either.
Yeah, same.
That's right, Richard. I don't know.
I haven't really heard, after the last like bull run, there
Right.
hasn't really been a whole lot of like discussion around cryptocurrency lately that I've heard,
Right.
and I haven't really seen people talk a whole lot about actual
Mm-hmm.
true uses for it, other than just holding it
Right.
as an investment. Which to me,
And
if
then,
Bitcoin's going to take off, you got to use it. You got to use it
yeah.
as money as opposed to holding it as an investment. To me, that's the biggest problem. People see it as an
Sure.
investment, and that kind of creates greed. People do stupid stuff, take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of other people, and
Yep.
you end up basically right now. I mean, Bitcoin's been holding at around 25,000 per Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
to 30,000 for a while now. I want to say probably
Right.
over a year or two has been holding there. Hasn't really gone up. I don't know. Maybe that's
Sure.
a good thing. Maybe that just means that the market's matured. But I don't see
And it's
anybody
stabling
really.
out.
Yeah, but like no one's really using it as a currency, which to me is a shame because that was the original intention of it.
Sure. Yeah. Whereas back then, you'd have to use, when people were able to do it, when it first came out, there were companies like you get pizza, buy pizza and stuff with it.
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah,
would
yeah,
cost you
yeah.
like
Yep.
1,000 of them to buy pizza. And now today it would be a
Yeah.
fraction of one. So,
Yeah.
fraction of a fraction. But
Do you have anything
any closing
particularly?
thoughts?
Yeah. So
Yeah. I
my
mean,
I guess my closing thought
go
is
ahead.
this. Here's my closing thought. My closing thought.
Mhm.
So during the next bull run, if it ever happens, I'm gonna liquidate
Mhm.
my Bitcoin. There's
Sure.
just I just don't see any way how I can. It's not an investment. it's not used as currency in reality. It just isn't, right? So I just have
Sure.
money that's tied up at the moment that I really can't do anything with. I mean,
Mhm.
I could sell it now and not take a loss, which is great, right? I'm one of the
Yeah.
lucky few that would not take a loss, but I also didn't make a whole lot of money with it either.
Right.
So during the next bull run, I'm just gonna take the money out, and it's an idea that I really like. The whole
Sure.
idea of democratizing money, putting it in the hands of the people, and not have any centralized regulatory figure or governmental figure controlling it is a
Right.
very romantic idea to me. But
Mhm.
I don't think that's ever possible. I don't think that's ever possible. Crypto is being influenced today by institutional investors, by governments. We just
Mhm.
talked about El Salvador adopting it as its own currency, and
Right.
if it continues down that line, we're just going to have
Mhm.
governments are going to continue. The big entities are the ones that are going to control it, right? Whether it's
Right.
governments, whether it's the whales, or whoever it is that's coming in and putting in a ton of cash into it, they're the ones that are ultimately going to control it, which leads us back
Right.
to the original problem that Bitcoin was trying to solve.
So, and I think this could be another topic going into talking about stocks. So I don't want to get into it too much because I think it could be its own topic all by itself, the stock market and things like that. But in a lot of ways, I agree at this moment, these cryptocurrencies are being traded and held onto like stocks, right?
Hmm.
I'm doing it because right now it's down for me. I would lose money if I sold it. I have stocks that are the same way.
Hmm.
Like I'm
Yeah,
down, like in
absolutely.
this particular stock, like I would lose quite a bit. I would lose like 70% of my investment. But if I
Hmm.
hold on to it, I haven't lost anything yet. It's just sitting there. So again, money's tied up. So I agree with you. To me, I think overall, um, I can see value in it, but it's very precarious because you don't know who's influencing it. And that's a scary thought. And I feel like a lot of these things in the end were just buzzwords, phrases like the Beanie Babies you talked about, like the tulip
100%.
craze
Man, you're so
in
right.
the
Yep.
Netherlands years ago.
Yep.
So, so I think it's a similar thing that people are like, oh, I can make money. I mean, look at GameStop when that went crazy.
Praise. Yeah.
People made a
Yeah.
bunch of money on it. But so I think that's my take on it is that you just have, there's some good purposes or things that could be used for, but we just have to be really careful.
Right. So that's it for today's episode. We'll be going back to our regular schedule of releasing these bi weekly as video to YouTube and as an audio version on all podcast platforms. So please, if you like this content, make sure to subscribe and check out the links in the description for more content like this. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.